The new top deck is here. Hello guys and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode we're taking a look at Mitsurugi, which is the new top tier ritual deck that is coming to Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. This has been in the TCG for quite some time now, but it has yet to arrive in the OCG, and that is because it is a TCG exclusive. So not everyone has had a chance to play with this, and it's very exciting to see that it's coming to Master Duel at this current moment. Now, what makes this deck so powerful? Well, it is a ritual deck that uses tributing to actually generate advantage. Whoa, crazy, I know. But on top of that, it doesn't really have any meaningful locks on anything, which means that it is very splashable with, most notably, Ryzeal, but pretty much anything. A lot of people are actually playing it with Yummy right now, which is... well, that just goes to show how powerful this deck is, that you can play it alongside Yummy. But yeah, the Mitsu cards are absolutely insane, and a lot of that is thanks to this card in particular, Habakiri. I'm not going to read this card first, though, because what we need to read is every single one of the other cards in the main deck. All of the main deck monsters, when summoned or tributed, do a thing. Saji searches for a spell trap. Kusanagi, which is not the card that I clicked on, Kusanagi adds back from grave or banishment, and Aramasa adds a monster. All of these are in service to Habakiri, which reveals itself from hand in order to special summon one of them and then tribute a monster. Notably, you do not have to tribute the monster you summon, you just have to tribute a monster you control. Now, granted, all of these also trigger when they are tributed, so you could just summon the monster and then tribute it and still get the effect there. On top of that, while it's on the field, all your opponent's monsters lose 800 attack, and on top of that, if it is tributed, you can add a Mitsu card from your deck to your hand, and then you can special summon this card. Now, notably, it does need to be properly summoned first, so you would have to ritual summon it and then tribute it in order to get the additional effect to bring it back, so do keep that in mind. However, still something that you can do. Makes sense. This means that you get kind of two searches off of this guy. You get the one summon search, so you summon a guy and then search a card, and then you also get the search from tributing it. Now, how are we tributing it? Well, we're summoning Saji. Saji is going to search out a spell trap, and that spell trap is going to be Prayers. Prayers says when this card is activated, you can tribute a reptile monster from your hand or field, and then you can apply one or both of the effects, both if you tributed that monster. And you can add a Mitsurugi monster from your deck to your hand, and you can take 800, then special summon a Mitsu from a hand or grave, but then you cannot attack directly. So notably, this adds another Mitsurugi ritual monster from your deck to your hand, and notably because it tributes, you also get the search off of Habakiri. And I'll show you how this works in a second. But from there, we would go into the Murakumo. Murakumo is the boss monster of the deck. So this is what we're going to search for, and this is part of our main combo. What this card does is, on summon, Raigekis your opponent's board. When your opponent activates a monster effect, or just an effect, sorry. When they activate an effect, they have to either discard a card or negate that effect. And if it's tributed, it does the same thing, where it brings itself back after searching a card. Fantastic. This is a very, very powerful boss monster and is extremely difficult to deal with just due to the nature of the rest of the deck. If you didn't notice, Prayers is a quick play spell, meaning you can Prayers to then get the rest of your cards and add back a Prayers throughout your combo in order to then set it on the opponent's turn and have it as either a way to special summon the Murakumo if it gets dealt with, or to tribute it and use the Murakumo to bring itself back, getting additional advantage, and then also nuking the opponent's board. Which means, yes, you do have a way to quick effect Raigeki the opponent's board. Hip hip hooray. Now, there's also one other ritual monster that does matter, which is Mitama. Now, Mitama just brings back reptile monsters from the grave. If your opponent special summons a monster, you bring back a reptile monster from your grave every time. However, you can only do that once per chain. So if they special summon a guy and then special summon another guy in the same chain, like for example, tier elements do tier element things and like summon like 5 guys in a chain, you're only going to get 1 guy off of that. That's fine. But notably, this allows you to more effectively go for a Murakumo because you can reborn it more effectively, right? So there's that. That being said, it also has the same effect, where if this card is tributed, you can add a Mitsurugi card and then special summon it. So there's that. And it's just huge. Both, like, all of these guys are massive, right? Except for Habakiri, except for the fact that Habakiri is massive because it actually is 32, more or less, because of the attack decrease to the entire opponent's field. So even this guy is huge. They're all very large. Notably, they're also level 8, which is important for extra deck plays such as Hope Harbinger. Now, that being said, they also have to have a ritual spell, which is Mitsurugi Ritual, which is one of the most busted ritual spells of all time, because either you can ritual summon the monster from your deck by tributing the monsters from your field, hand or field, sorry, or you can ritual summon it from your hand by tributing the monsters from your deck. So that means you have the ability to basically either get the ritual monster that you didn't previously have, or get the necessary ritual materials which you previously didn't have. Which also means that you can play things like the... where is he? The Sword Knight Serpent, which just special summons itself in order to just facilitate extra rank 4 plays and what have you. This is very, very nice, and it is a very solid card. Notably, it's also not once per turn, meaning you can use... sorry, it is kind of once per turn. You can only use each ritual effect per turn, once per turn. So, you could ritual summon the monster from deck, and then you could ritual summon the guy from hand. Make sense? Makes sense. Or vice versa, right? You could ritual summon the guy from hand, and then ritual summon the guy from deck. Very powerful. So, with that being said, that is generally what the deck is aimed to do. However, we can also play Mirror, which is just an additional ritual spell. It's not exceptional, it's just okay. However, on top of that, if one of your rituals is tributed while it's in the grave, you get to shuffle this guy back into the deck, which is okay. However, it's not that big of a deal because of pre-prep. Pre-prep is the main reason we are playing that card, because guess what? This specifically names all of the rituals, which means you can use pre-prep to grab any of those rituals and the mirror, and then you're off to the races from there. We also have things like Magatama, which is just another disruption piece, and then we have a few other cards, most notably Great Purification, which also exists, which is a negate. You distribute one of your monsters, and then you negate an effect your opponent controls, and well, I should say, or you can banish it from the grave and then reborn one of your guys and tribute a guy. So, pretty solid there. There's also a few other cards which aren't very great, like Tempest and Boundary, which are fine, but they're not really worth playing. However, we also have the ability to play all of the Ryziel stuff, because these aren't locked in any capacity, and on top of that, the Ryziel stuff only locks you from the extra deck. So you're kind of not really concerned one way or the other. But notably, you also have the ability to pivot either from the Mitsurugi stuff into the Ryziel stuff, or from the Ryziel stuff into the Mitsurugi stuff, thanks to things like King of the Feral Imps and the generic nature of Duo Drive. So that's pretty impactful and very, very solid. Let's hop into the replay and show you how this deck performs. Alright, so we're going to start off here with the Mitsurugi stuff, and I'm just going to showcase what Habakiri does. Any way to Habakiri does this. So we're going to special summon out the Saji. Saji effect is going to be activated once we tribute it in order to grab up the ritual spell. From here, we are going to activate Mitsurugi Ritual, and we are going to summon it from hand by using the monsters from deck. So we're going to summon out the Habakiri, and we are going to tribute specifically the Kusanagi, which adds back from grave, and the Night Sword Serpent. So we're going to special summon out, and then we are going to activate the effect of our Kusanagi, and our Night Sword Serpent. And we're going to grab the ritual spell again. So from here, we are going to add back that ritual spell, and now we can actually just activate it again and summon out the Ameno, which then special summons itself and activates Habakiri. Habakiri is then going to grab up prayers and reborn itself. So from here, we're off to the races, because now we get to activate our prayers, and we are going to also be able to tribute a reptile monster. Notably, we get to tribute the other Mitsurugi monster, and we get to add another Mitsurugi. So here we're going to add up a... let's add... I don't know, Aramasa. And we're going to special summon it from the grave. It doesn't matter which one. Let's just add this one. Sure. From this position, the Murakumo is going to add a card, which we would add the prayers here, and we get to then special summon it as well. Hip hip hooray. Now from this position, to be fair, this line in particular is weak to Nibiru. Not that big of a deal, but still. it is technically weak. From here, we get to go into Ryziel stuff. We just get to make the Ryziel monster and do full Ryziel combo, right? We get a detach, yada yada. You've seen the Ryziel combo, you know what it does at this point. However, we could also potentially, before going into the Ryziel stuff, or fully committing, we could make like a rank 8, we could make a Dynamondo, we could do a whole bunch of different things. So, there's that. Okay, so now I'm going to showcase what this deck does specifically with the Ryziel version, or basically how one gets into the other one. So we're going to actually special summon out the X tier, and the reason for this is because we want to actually search out the Sword, because Sword wants to search out Star, so that's why we're doing this way. We do really want Star here. Now, granted, you could, if we have Eclipse Twins, I think it is more worthwhile to summon Star and use X to search out Node and send the other guy. However, that being said, it is a little bit weaker in some areas, most notably the reason that this works as well as it does is because from here we can go into King of the Feral Imps, and then we can detach the material to search a card, which we're going to search out the Habakiri, and then we also have the ability to detach an additional material to summon out the Star, and at this point, the opponent can either Nibiru, or Nibiru is just automatically turned off, and then we still have the full Mitsu line. So, that's generally why I think summoning X there is a little bit stronger. However, with Eclipse Twins is significantly better, so getting that into the graveyard is going to be more valuable than not. So, there you go. However, from this position, this is pretty standard Ryziel stuff. The only difference is instead of going for, I don't know, something else, we're going for King of the Feral Imps, but at this point, we get to now go for Duo Drive. Duo Drive effect is going to activate, and we're going to add back an additional material. From here, we're just going to go and do the Mitsu stuff. It's the same line that you saw previously. We're just going to tribute the Saji. We're going to activate the effect of the Saji. We're going to grab up the Ritual Spell. We're going to activate the effect of the Ritual Spell, sending from the graveyard, or sorry, sending to the graveyard, tributing technically, the Night Sword as well as the add back. So we're going to trigger the Kusanagi. I keep forgetting its name. Add back the Ritual Spell, activate the Night Sword Serpent, and special summon itself. And add back the Ritual Spell from deck, the Ame no. And then from here, we get to activate the effect of the other Mitsu to grab up the Quick Play spell. And we also get to reborn it as well. And now we get to go for the Prayers here. We're going to activate the effect of the Prayers. We're going to tribute a Reptile monster. Hey, we're going to tribute... To be fair, from this position, we could also tribute King of the Feral Imps. Again, dependent on Eclipse Twins. This would also be another way to get Eclipse Twins onto the board. If we wanted to do that instead, but alas. But now we get to add a Ritual, or a Mitsurugi. We're just going to add a Mitsurugi here, and then we're also going to take a bunch and reborn a guy. We're going to reborn this guy, and then we're also going to activate the Murakumo, which is going to add another thing, which is going to be the Prayers. We're going to add another Prayers so that we have a follow-up, and out comes an additional Dingus. And then from here, we get to make ourselves a bunch of different things. We're going to go for this guy in particular, which then allows us to use Duo Drive, detaching 2 from our the Star Liege. And we're going to add 2 things. We're going to grab these 2. That's fine. We'll go Node. We'll activate the effect of Node, tributing this guy, summoning back this guy. Not tributing. Notably not tributing. If it was tributing, it would be significantly better. It sends to the graveyard. But now we get to make Detonator, we get to attach material, and we're going to attach our Night Sword Serpent. Here, if we had Eclipse Twins, again, I'm playing as if we don't. If we have Eclipse Twins, we would have sent Eclipse Twins and we would add that back so that at the very least we have better, more easily ways to get into our Eclipse Twin line. But now we get to set this, and we get to set this, and we get to pass the turn, and we have follow-up on the next turn with the Aramasa. So, there you go. We're off to the races. And that's it. That's the board. All untargetable, big dinguses, the nukes and negates and all of that jazz that you've come to love and enjoy about Ryziel, added to the nth degree with the Mitsu stuff. So, there you go. That's the line. Now, the last things that I want to mention are things that you can play in addition to the to the actual engine itself. So first and foremost, obviously we have all of the standard cards: Maxi, Fuas, Perulias, Called Bys, etc. Ash. However, Droll notably is very good against this deck. As you saw, we searched a million cards, so Droll kind of shuts a lot of that down. that's pretty solid. On top of that, Droll also shuts down the ability to reborn the guys because they have to search and then they special summon, right? If it's tributed, you add a card, then you can special summon the card, so there's that. On top of that, you could also play things like the triple tax, which are very nice, just in general. They're just pretty solid against other hand traps, and being able to set things like dimensional barrier, or even like your trap yourself, like Great Purification is pretty solid, and they're very solid at going second as well. Things like Triple Tactics Talents is pretty solid. Droplet's not terrible as well, because like you can just send a bunch of the stuff, right? For example, if I activate Prayers, I can just send that to the graveyard, right? It's not that big of a deal. So there's that. You could also send things like Great Purification, which has a graveyard effect as well. So there's that. Lots of value from those. Other such things that you can play in the extra deck are things like Tornado Dragon, the Full Armored Lancer, Dagesto Emerald to shuffle back things like Dragonite Ignister, and IP Masquerena as well. So there's that. Hopefully this helps. Thank you guys so much for watching, and remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye.